I never imagined this would be my place. In the kitchen, sitting by a stack of used trays, next to a cart with a broken wheel that squeaked every time someone pushed it. But that's exactly where I found myself, watching my son, Daniel, get married through a swinging door behind a tray of shrimp cocktail. I paid for everything. Every flower, every chair, every detail of the wedding. But when the music started, when the toasts began, I wasn't part of it, not even close. I smiled and stayed quiet, trying to disappear into the background. After the last bite of cake, I did something I hadn't done in years. I burned it all to the ground with one phone call. That was my place, between a stack of used trays and a broken cart. There was no sign, no card, no nameplate, and certainly no warm greeting. Just a folding chair with a paper napkin tossed over it. When I arrived, no one even looked at me. Not Daniel, not anyone. He was too busy smiling, adjusting his cufflinks, letting Emily's mother kiss him on the cheek like she was the one who raised him. Like she was the one who stayed up with him when he had night terrors. The one who worked double shifts to make sure he had braces when I couldn't afford both rent and his smile. I looked down at my dress. Soft mauve chiffon, hand-stitched. I had spent 3 hours getting my hair done that morning. 3 hours pretending this day would be as special for me as it was for them. But it wasn't. No one had told me. No one said, "We've made other seating arrangements." Not even Daniel. I clutched my little handbag. Beige leather. The one he bought me years ago for Mother's Day, when he still called me Mama. My hands were shaking, and I could feel the subtle vibration in my wrists. Something inside me was trying to escape. The catering manager, a boy who couldn't have been more than 25, approached with an awkward smile. They said you were supposed to wait back here, ma'am. The bride didn't want, any visual clashes with the theme? Theme? I stared at him, trying to understand. Aesthetic consistency, he said, glancing at the swinging doors behind him. The music and laughter spilled out from the reception hall. I sat down slowly. The chair creaked. There was a dark stain on the floor under my feet. Gravy, maybe. My shoes stuck slightly when I shifted them. I looked at my freshly done nails, soft pink, and then at the cold chicken breast someone had dropped in front of me on a chipped white plate. I didn't say anything, not a word, because it was his day, and I told myself, don't ruin this for him. Don't be that mother. I had paid for it all. I believed that meant something, but it didn't. I pulled out the program that had been handed to me at the church. Elegant cursive on cream cardstock. No mention of me anywhere. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her mother gave the first speech. I was just the purse string, the ghost in the kitchen, the woman no one wanted in the picture. The door swung open again. I caught a glimpse of the chandelier, the band starting up, Daniel and Emily twirling under soft golden light. He didn't look my way. Not once. I pressed the napkin to my mouth, pretending to dab a non-existent stain. My eyes burned. I told myself it was the onions from the kitchen, the steam, the heat, not the betrayal. But it was. God, it was. I stared at the wall in front of me. There was a patch of peeling paint behind a fire extinguisher. I stared at it so hard, I thought I'd burn a hole through it. That spot became my anchor. My focal point. The only thing keeping me from falling apart. If I let it out, if I started crying, I didn't know if I'd ever stop. I took a deep breath, then another. The chicken on my plate had gone cold. I didn't touch it. Eventually, someone brought out dessert. I didn't taste it. I just stared at the layers of white and gold, her colors, her perfect little vision. And then I made the call. It was short, direct. No need to explain myself. Just 3 simple cancellations. The flowers for tomorrow's brunch. The second half of the band's payment. The open bar that was supposed to last until midnight. My voice was steady, calm, controlled. And when I hung up, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel regret. I felt the first flicker of something I hadn't known in years. Power. I looked down at my hands again. No longer shaking. My heart no longer racing. Just a quiet hum, like an engine coming back to life. The door swung open again. Another flash of light. Another burst of laughter. The life I was excluded from. Let them toast without me. I had my own plans now. I didn't sleep that night, not for a second. I lay in the hotel bed, still in my dress, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me. It felt like it might suddenly unscrew and crash down on me. I half hoped it would. Anything to distract me from the sick feeling that was still churning in my stomach. The scent of kitchen grease still clung to my hair, mingling with the expensive perfume of roses that never quite hid the sour smell of my own sweat and humiliation. I kicked off my shoes. My feet were swollen, aching from standing too long in that stupid folding chair. They hurt during the whole reception, but I hadn't dared take them off. I needed to look presentable, even in the kitchen. Around 3 a.m., I sat up, staring at the digital clock glowing red on the nightstand. My phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. I already knew what was there. Missed calls from Daniel, from Emily. A message from my niece that simply said, "What happened? Everyone's freaking out." I opened the wedding budget spreadsheet on my tablet. I'd been keeping track of every penny for over a year. I knew every cent, every adjustment, every upgrade. Emily had asked for everything, always with that tight smile of hers, always calling it elevated. "Margaret, we just want something a little more elevated." That's what she'd say, like it was all so casual. That's how I ended up agreeing to hand calligraphed invitations from some boutique Etsy vendor in Vermont. That's how the venue changed from the community church hall to a restored barn with chandeliers and antique whiskey barrels. How the open bar added a custom cocktail menu, and the cake went from 2 tiers to 5. I paid for it all. No one offered to split the cost. Not Daniel, not her parents, and I never asked. Because I wanted him to have everything I couldn't afford when I was raising him. I scrolled through the transactions, my breath catching in my throat when I saw them. Unauthorized charges, just days before the wedding. Bar tab from a tasting event. Dress rehearsal dinner upgrade. Same restaurant where they sat me in the back, near the kitchen again. My stomach clenched as I double-checked the card. My card had been used without permission, and then I saw the note she left on Venmo to one of her bridesmaids. "His mom is covering everything. Might as well go big. Wedding vibes." I didn't cry. Not this time. I felt nothing. That strange, heavy nothing that comes after too much pain. Like my insides had gone numb. Like my nerve endings had curled inward to protect themselves. I reached over and turned on the lamp. The light stung my eyes. I walked to the mirror above the dresser. My reflection startled me. Mascara smudged beneath my eyes. My mouth, usually soft, had hardened into something unfamiliar. My hair was flat, one side crushed from the pillow. I looked like I had aged 10 years in one night. But then something shifted. I smoothed my hair back, washed my face, and sat down at the desk. I opened my email. I drafted 3 messages. One to the florist. "Please cancel Sunday delivery. The payment balance is withheld. Thank you." One to the band. "Due to changes in the event schedule, we will not require the second performance. Please consider the matter closed." And one to the bar vendor. We are scaling back post-reception services. Please cancel the second shift. Do not process the remaining balance. All were polite, all professional, but final. It was almost dawn when I hit send, and when the sky outside turned from black to bruised blue, I closed my tablet, sat on the bed, and listened to the quiet hum of the air conditioning. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was done. Done being convenient. Done being the wallet. Done being the afterthought. Let them figure it out. Let them scramble. Let them remember the moment when the music cut off, the bar stopped pouring, the flowers never arrived, and wonder why. And maybe, just maybe, they'd remember who made that wedding possible in the first place. The woman in the kitchen. The one they didn't want in the photos. The door swung open again. I could hear someone making a toast. A male voice, probably her father or maybe Daniel's best man. I leaned back slightly, just enough to catch a glimpse through the crack of the door. There they were, lined up in front of that ridiculous floral arch. I had paid Dylan for it. Gold chairs, floating candles, a custom neon sign that read, "The future is forever." In loopy cursive, I recognized the voices, even when I couldn't see the faces. Emily's mother, Susan, with her signature fake sympathy tone. "Oh my God, Daniel, you are just the sweetest man alive. Emily is so lucky." Then, laughter. Cheers. I froze. Sitting at the head table was Susan, draped in navy chiffon, dripping in pearls like she was born into old money. But she wasn't. She'd met me only 3 times before the wedding. Never asked about my life. Never thanked me for the payments. Never even offered to contribute a penny. Next to her was Emily's father, holding court like a suburban king. Big, booming laugh. The same man who told me at the rehearsal dinner, "We really admire your perseverance, raising Daniel on your own and all. Must have been hard." Perseverance. As if I'd hiked a mountain, not worked years in scrubs so my kid could have a life without hand-me-downs. And there was Daniel. My Daniel. Smiling like a stranger. Sitting between her parents like he'd always belonged to them. I searched for my own family. She glanced at my plate and smiled awkwardly, guilty. "Do you want, a refill or anything?" I shook my head. "I'm fine." But I wasn't. God, I wasn't. Every inch of me ached. My feet, my shoulders, my jaw clenched so tight it pulsed behind my eyes. My heart sat heavy in my chest like a lump of something rotten that refused to move. I stared down at my plate. 3 olives, a slice of brie, a sad little triangle of toast. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, but I couldn't bring myself to put anything in my mouth. My stomach was a clenched fist. My throat a narrow pipe. I thought about the seating chart. I should have known. I asked Emily weeks ago if she had figured out where I'd be sitting. She smiled, that tight, bright smile she always wore when she was hiding something. "We're still finalizing everything. Don't worry, Margaret. You'll be included." I should have known right then, but I didn't. I believed her. I believed in the idea that family meant something, that what I'd done for him, for Daniel, counted for something. But here I was, sitting in the back, in the kitchen. Every part of me was screaming, "This isn't right. This isn't where you belong." I wasn't even given the courtesy of a seat at the table. I wasn't important enough for that. I wanted to make a scene, to shout, to storm out, to confront them all right there. To let Daniel know what it felt like to be so invisible in the life you'd given everything for. But instead, I stayed silent. I stayed quiet because Deep down, I thought maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe, if I kept doing my part, if I kept pushing through the pain, it would change. He would see me. He would realize how much I'd sacrificed. But as I watched him laugh with Emily, watch him greet her parents with that familiar warmth, I felt something in me snap. I had given up too much. I had sacrificed too much for him to only matter when it was convenient. It wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't just about the flowers or the cake or the catering I had paid for. It was about the years, the nights I stayed up late, working 2 jobs so he could have everything he wanted. The days I spent making sure he didn't feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. And this was how I was repaid. I could feel the tears threatening to spill. But I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. I wasn't just an afterthought anymore. I looked at my phone. It had been buzzing all night. I hadn't checked any of the messages, but I knew who they were from. Daniel, Emily, a couple from her family, all wondering where I was, wondering why I wasn't part of their perfect little day. I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't pretend. I pulled my phone out and made the decision that had been building up for years, waiting for the right moment to break free. I made the call. 3 calls, 3 cancellations, the flowers, the band, the open bar. I didn't need to explain. I didn't need to justify myself anymore. I wasn't invisible anymore. I felt power rush through me as I hung up. The power of finally taking control of my own life. The power of standing up, even if no one else understood it. And just like that, the game had changed. I looked back at the door. The laughter from the reception was still spilling out, but now it felt distant, like I wasn't part of it anymore. I stood up, took one last look around the kitchen, and walked out. The next few hours felt like a blur, the weight of what I had done still heavy on my shoulders. I didn't sleep at all that night. My mind kept racing, running through the events, over and over again, like a broken record. I had stood up for myself. I had finally made a choice for me. The phone calls had been made, but I hadn't expected it to feel this freeing. When I walked into the hotel room after those calls, I had expected some flood of guilt, but it didn't come. Instead, there was this strange, almost peaceful calm. I stayed up, sitting at the desk in front of the window, staring out at the city lights that flickered like 1,000 tiny stars. I wasn't sure what to do next. Part of me wanted to leave, to disappear. But there was something else, something deeper, something stronger pulling me in a different direction. I realized then that I wasn't done. Not yet. The next morning, I woke up early. The first thing I did was check my phone. There were dozens of missed calls, messages, voicemails. Daniel, Emily, even some distant relatives. Everyone had been scrambling, wondering what had happened, why everything had changed. I didn't respond. Not yet. Not until I was ready. But I knew something now. Something I hadn't allowed myself to believe before. I had nothing left to prove. I opened my email and started drafting. The same polite, professional tone I'd used before. But now, it was different. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't about the wedding. It was about me. I sent an email to the band, canceling their second performance. Due to changes in the event schedule, we will not require the second performance, I wrote. That was all. I sent another email to the florist, confirming that the Sunday delivery was no longer needed. The payment balance is withheld, I added. I wasn't asking for their understanding. I wasn't asking for anything. And then I sent the final one to the bar vendor. We are scaling back post-reception services. Please cancel the second shift. Do not process the remaining balance. Simple, to the point. When I hit send on the last email, I didn't feel any weight lifting. I didn't feel relief. What I felt was something new. Control. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was taking ownership of my life. I wasn't just the afterthought. I wasn't just the one who showed up to make sure everything went smoothly while everyone else took the credit. I wasn't going to let them erase me anymore. When the calls started flooding in again, Daniel's first, then Emily's, followed by a string of messages from friends and family, I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to explain myself yet. They didn't deserve an explanation. Instead, I stood up and walked to the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of coffee, black and strong. I took it to the living room and sat by the window, watching the sun begin to rise. The peace was almost overwhelming. The quiet hum of the house felt like freedom, and for the first time in a long while, I let myself feel it. The morning passed in a strange, almost surreal silence. I sat on the couch, cradling my coffee, staring at the empty spaces where Daniel's pictures used to hang. The absence felt more real than the presence ever had. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was honest. For the first time, I wasn't living in a shrine to someone else's idea of what family should look like. I hadn't spoken to Daniel since the wedding. I hadn't even looked at my phone. But as the afternoon wore on, the messages started coming in. Some pleading, some defensive, all of them demanding answers. Daniel's voice was the first to reach me. "Mom, where are you? Why is the brunch canceled?" His tone was flat, a little angry. "Seriously, this isn't funny." Then came Emily, her message sharp and frustrated. "I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? Please respond." The next message, from my niece, was simpler. "What happened? Everyone's freaking out." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They didn't deserve to hear my side of the story. They didn't need to know why I had done what I had done. They thought I was being petty. They thought I was overreacting. But they had no idea. They had no idea what it felt like to be erased from your own child's life, to be the one who gave everything, and still wasn't enough. I opened the drawer in the guest room, the one that creaked when you opened it, half stuck, needing a little nudge. I wasn't even looking for anything specific, just clearing out the remnants of a life I'd been too tired to sort through. But then I found it. That red folder. The one I thought I had emptied already. It was tucked into the sleeve, so thin it might as well have been part of the lining. I pulled it out and unfolded the letter. The handwriting was familiar, the slanted strokes of my late husband, Michael. The date on the letter was from 3 days before he passed. "Margaret, if you're reading this, I guess the first letter reached you. I don't know if you opened it. I hope you did. I won't waste time apologizing again, but I need to tell you something more. Something I couldn't carry with me. Something I should have said a long time ago. Daniel wasn't just someone else's son. He was never supposed to be yours at all. When Emily left him at my door, she didn't want to keep him. She was 18, terrified. She asked me to give him up for adoption. I couldn't. I didn't have the heart. So I lied to you. I told you he was ours, that it was a mistake from before we got married. You believed me. You raised him. You loved him like he was flesh of your flesh. But the truth is, he wasn't even that. He was a stranger's child. And you made him your world anyway. I don't know how you'll feel reading this, but I hope you know that whatever else I did wrong, I was right about choosing you. You were the only person strong enough to be his mother. Not because of blood, but because of who you are. I didn't move. The words sat on my chest like a boulder. Not biologically mine, not even accidentally mine. Chosen by a man who abandoned both of us. He gave me a child and then walked away like it was a favor. My breath caught for the first time in days. I sat there on the edge of the bed, paper still in my hands, as 1,000 images flashed in my mind. The first time I rocked Daniel to sleep, his tiny fists curled against my shoulder. His first word, truck. The fever that scared me so badly I drove him to the ER barefoot in winter. The science fair project he stayed up crying over when the volcano wouldn't erupt. His first heartbreak. His laugh when he found out he'd gotten into college. Every moment I thought was ours. Every moment I had built my life around, had built my identity around, only to be told that it wasn't enough. I had given everything, but in the end, it wasn't me he needed. He needed a family that wasn't me, a family that had erased me from his story. I stood up slowly. My hands were trembling, but not from sadness, not from grief, from clarity. I wasn't his backdrop anymore. I wasn't going to be anyone's afterthought. I took the letter and placed it on the kitchen table. I didn't hide it. I didn't lock it away. I just let it sit there, plain and visible, like a truth I no longer needed to shield from myself. The silence in the house that morning felt different. It wasn't empty. It was filled with the weight of decisions made, of realizations that had been a long time coming. I wasn't broken anymore. I had been for so long. Broken by the idea that love meant giving everything and still coming up short. But now I was whole again, not because of anyone else, but because I had decided to choose myself. The day passed slowly, and for the first time in a long time, it felt right. The house, quiet and still, was mine again. I wasn't answering calls, and I didn't care what anyone thought. For so long, I had played the role of the self-sacrificing mother, the woman who put everyone's needs above her own and still ended up alone. But today, I was done with that. Today, I was going to take back my life, my space, my identity. The phone buzzed again in the afternoon. More messages from Daniel, from Emily, from her parents. But I didn't open them. I didn't need to hear their excuses or their demands for explanations. They thought I was being dramatic, petty. They didn't understand. And I didn't owe them an explanation. I wasn't angry anymore. No, what I felt was something much deeper. A quiet, powerful kind of peace. I wasn't angry at Daniel for not knowing how much I'd given, how much I'd sacrificed for him. I wasn't angry at Emily for manipulating him, for pushing me out of his life. I wasn't even angry at Michael for leaving me with that secret, for making me raise a child who wasn't even mine. What I felt now was freedom. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from the idea that I had to prove my worth to anyone. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty space where the framed photos of Daniel used to hang. No longer there. I hadn't even realized how heavy they were until they were gone. The house felt lighter now. It felt like me. I wasn't a ghost in my own life anymore. I moved through the house, letting my fingers run along the edge of the furniture, as though I was reacquainting myself with it all. The beige walls, the dent in the doorframe from when Daniel crashed his bike, the sewing kit I used to patch up his school uniforms. I had spent so many years stitching my identity into his, into this family, that I forgot what it meant to be just me. I hadn't realized how lost I was until I finally found myself again. The phone rang again. It was Daniel. I didn't answer. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't waiting for him to come to his senses and beg for my forgiveness. What I needed from him was something he couldn't give me. Acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that I was his mother, that everything I had done for him wasn't just some background noise in his life. But he didn't have that for me. And now, I wasn't waiting around for him to realize it. I was done being invisible, done being someone else's afterthought. It wasn't just about Daniel anymore. It was about me, about choosing to live my life for myself and not for someone else's approval. That evening, I went to the kitchen and pulled out a recipe I had seen on a cooking show months ago. Lemon butter pasta with roasted cherry tomatoes and garlic. No chicken nuggets, no mac and cheese. Just what I wanted. It felt strange at first, cooking for myself. But it felt right too. I lit a candle on the table, not to impress anyone, but because I liked the way the flame flickered in the dim light. I set the table for one. No fancy place settings, just a plate, a glass of wine, and me. And when I sat down, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel forgotten. I felt present. I felt seen. Later, that night, I posted a single photo on Facebook. It wasn't a photo of the wedding. It wasn't a photo of me. It was a picture of the check I had written to cover everything. I blurred out the account number, but left the signature visible. No caption, no explanation. Just that. A simple receipt of the sacrifices I had made. And then I logged off. I didn't need to explain myself. I didn't need to apologize. I wasn't ashamed of what I had done. For the first time, I was doing something for me. The comments on that post started rolling in. Some were confused, some were angry, but a few stood out. One of them stuck with me. This woman said, "Margaret, I've never related to something so deeply. Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay quiet." And that was it. That was the moment. I didn't need to be understood by everyone. I didn't need to justify my actions. What I did was for me. The next day, I woke up to a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. No guilt, no regret, just peace. Daniel hadn't called again, and that was fine. I didn't need him to. I had made my choice. The people who mattered were already here. The ones who saw me, the ones who respected me. I had my own table now, and I wasn't going to sit at the back anymore. The silence had become a part of me, not something I needed to fight. The silence wasn't submission. It was control. It was peace. It was mine. And I was finally okay with that.